June 15th, 1961, 8:04 a.m. Mamie Johnson walked into her daughter's bedroom. Ruthie wasn't there. The bed was made. The window was open. And sitting on the pillow was a note. Not a note from Ruthie. A note to Bumpy. "We have your daughter. $500,000 by midnight or she dies. Don't call the police. Don't try to find her. Just pay." Mamie's scream brought Bumpy running up the stairs 3 at a time. When he saw the note, when he saw his daughter's empty room, something in Bumpy Johnson's face changed. The careful, controlled mask he always wore cracked, and underneath was something terrifying. Pure, focused rage.
What happened next became legend in Harlem. Not because of how many people Bumpy killed, though there would be bodies, but because of what he did in 4 hours. 4 hours to find his daughter in a city of 8 million people. 4 hours to track down kidnappers who'd planned this for weeks. 4 hours that proved why you never, ever touched Bumpy Johnson's family. This is that story. To understand what Bumpy did, you need to understand who Ruthie was. Ruth Johnson was 16 years old in 1961. She was Bumpy's only child, his princess, his whole world. Ruthie didn't know the details of what her father did. She knew he was important, knew people respected him, but Bumpy had kept her separate from his world.
She went to a good school, had normal friends, did normal teenage things. Bumpy wanted that for her, a life without violence, without looking over her shoulder, without the weight of his reputation. But someone had decided to use her to get to him, and that someone had just made the worst mistake of their life. 8:05 a.m. Bumpy's hands were shaking as he held the note, not from fear, from the effort of controlling himself. Mamie was on the phone calling everyone, neighbors, Ruthie's friends, anyone who might know something. Bumpy went to his daughter's window. It faced the alley. The kidnappers had come in through the fire escape, professional, planned. They'd watched the house, learned the routine, knew exactly when to strike.
Ruthie always left for school at 7:30 a.m. This morning, she never made it to the street. Bumpy looked at his watch, 8:06 a.m. If they wanted money by midnight, that gave him 15 hours. But Bumpy knew better. Kidnappers who demanded money rarely kept their victims alive that long. Too risky. Too many things could go wrong. Which meant Ruthie had maybe 4, maybe 5 hours before they decided she was more trouble than she was worth. 4 hours to save his daughter's life. Bumpy went downstairs, picked up the phone, dialed. Junie answered on the first ring. "Get everyone to Small's Paradise. Now. Everyone means everyone. I don't care if they're sleeping, eating, or dying. 10 minutes. Boss, what happened?" They took Ruthie.
The line went silent. Then Junie's voice came back, hard as steel. "We'll find her, boss. We'll bring her home." Bumpy hung up, looked at Mamie. She was crying, terrified, but she knew her husband, knew what he was capable of. "Bring her back, Ellsworth, whatever it takes, whatever it costs. Bring our baby back." Bumpy kissed his wife's forehead. "I will. I promise." 8:17 a.m. Small's Paradise. 37 men sat in the empty restaurant, Bumpy's entire organization. Numbers runners, enforcers, policy bankers, street soldiers, every person who owed Bumpy loyalty, every person who'd kill for him without question. Bumpy stood in front of them, the kidnapper's note in his hand.
Someone took my daughter. His voice was quiet, controlled, but everyone in that room felt the fury underneath.
They want $500,000. They think they can threaten my family and walk away. They think wrong. He looked around the room. Every face was stone. These men had families too. Children, wives. What happened to Ruthie could happen to any of them. This wasn't just about Bumpy. This was about the code. You don't touch families. Ever. "Junie," Bumpy said, "I want you to call every informant, every cop on our payroll, every person who sees things in this city. I want to know who's been asking questions about my family, who's been watching my house, who's been planning something. Willie, check the train stations, bus terminals, airports. They might try to move her out of the city. I want eyes everywhere."
"The rest of you," Bumpy continued,
Spread out. Talk to everyone. Every bartender, every doorman, every street kid who might have seen something this morning between 7:30 and 8 a.m.
One of the soldiers raised his hand. "Boss, what if this is the Italians? What if it's Genovese trying to pressure you?" Then Genovese just signed his own death warrant. But we don't assume anything. We find evidence. We find Ruthie. Then we handle whoever's responsible. The men dispersed like water, flooding into every corner of Harlem, Brooklyn, the Bronx, asking questions, applying pressure, following leads. Bumpy sat alone in Small's paradise, staring at the clock. 8:34 a.m. 3 hours and 26 minutes since Ruthie disappeared. By 9:15 a.m., the first lead came in. Father Divine called. The preacher had informants everywhere, people who confessed things, people who heard things. "Bumpy," Father Divine said, "I heard something." "What?" "2 men were asking about your daughter last week, asking which school she attended, what time she left the house." "Who?" "White men, Italian. One of them had a scar across his left eye. They were drinking at McGlory's bar in Little Italy." Bumpy wrote it down. "Thank you, Father. Find your daughter, Bumpy. And when you do, remember, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. With respect, Father, today vengeance is mine." 9:28 a.m. Bumpy sent Willie to McGlory's bar. Willie walked in at 9:45 a.m., gun visible under his jacket. The bartender, a nervous Italian man in his 50s, looked up. "We're not open yet." Willie pulled out a photograph of Ruthie. "This girl. 2 men were in here asking about her. I want names." The bartender's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." Willie grabbed him by the collar, slammed him against the wall. "Let me be clear. Bumpy Johnson's daughter was kidnapped this morning. Those 2 men were involved.
If I don't get names in the next 10 seconds, this bar burns to the ground with you inside."
Okay. The bartender was shaking. "Tommy Marciano. Tommy the Hawk. He was here with another guy, Sal something. They work for somebody, I don't know who." "Where do I find Tommy?" "Red Hook. He's got a warehouse near the docks, number 43 Pierce Street." Willie let him go, headed for the door. "If you're lying, I'm coming back." "I'm not lying, I swear." Willie called Bumpy. "We got a location, Red Hook, warehouse on Pierce Street. Could be a trap, probably is. I don't care. Get 10 men and meet me there." 10:23 a.m. But Bumpy didn't go to Red Hook yet, because something didn't add up. Tommy the Hawk was small-time, a low-level enforcer for the Genovese family.
He didn't have the brains or the balls to kidnap Bumpy Johnson's daughter on his own.
Someone bigger was behind this, someone with resources, someone who thought they could pressure Bumpy. Bumpy called Detective Murphy. Murphy was a dirty cop, had been on Bumpy's payroll for years. "Murphy, I need information." "About what?" "Vito Genovese. Has he been making moves against me?" Murphy was quiet for a moment. "There's been talk." "What kind of talk?" "Genovese wants Harlem, wants the numbers racket. He's been looking for leverage, something to force you to negotiate." "My daughter." "Maybe. I don't have proof, but the timing fits." "Where is Genovese right now?" "His social club in the Bronx, Arthur Avenue. He's there every morning." Bumpy hung up. Now it made sense. Genovese had ordered the kidnapping. Tommy the Hawk was just the tool.
The plan was simple. Take Ruthie. Force Bumpy to hand over his territory to get her back. Then kill her anyway to send a message.
It was smart. It was ruthless. It was exactly what Genovese would do. But Genovese had made one mistake. He didn't understand what Bumpy Johnson was willing to do to save his daughter. 10:47 a.m. Bumpy walked into Vito Genovese's social club with 5 men. No appointment, no warning. Just walked through the front door like he owned the place. The guards tried to stop him. Bumpy's men put guns to their heads. "Sit down, shut up." Vito Genovese was in the back room playing cards with 3 of his captains. He looked up when Bumpy walked in, and for a moment, genuine surprise crossed his face. "Bumpy, this is unexpected. Where's my daughter?" Genovese set down his cards slowly.
I don't know what you're talking about. Bumpy pulled out his straight razor, the same one he'd carried for 30 years. Opened it slowly.
Vito, I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is my daughter? The captains reached for their guns. Bumpy's men already had theirs out. Mexican standoff. Bumpy, Genevieve said carefully, if someone took your daughter, I had nothing to do with it. You're lying. Maybe, maybe not. But if you kill me right now, you'll never find her. And my people will kill your wife, your friends, everyone you love. Is that what you want? Bumpy stared at Genevieve for 10 long seconds. Then he put the razor away. You've got until noon. If I don't have my daughter by noon, I'm coming back here, and I'm not leaving until you're dead. Understood? Understood. Bumpy walked out. His men followed. When they were gone, one of Genevieve's captains spoke.
Boss, you want us to handle this? Genevieve shook his head. No, let Tommy finish it. If Bumpy's daughter dies, Bumpy will be too broken to fight. We'll take Harlem without firing a shot. But if Tommy kills her before noon, boss, Bumpy will come back here. I know. That's why we're leaving. Get the car. Bumpy stood outside the social club, thinking. Genevieve had confirmed it with his silence. He was behind the kidnapping, but he wasn't going to give up Ruthie's location, which meant the Red Hook warehouse was the only lead. 11:03 a.m. Bumpy's watch read 11:03, 3 hours and 33 minutes since Ruthie was taken. He'd promised Mamie he'd bring their daughter home. He'd promised himself he'd make the kidnappers pay. Time to keep both promises.
Junie pulled up in a car with 10 men. Boss, we're ready. Bumpy looked at his crew. These men were soldiers. They'd follow him into hell if he asked. Today, he was asking. Red Hook, Warehouse 43. We go in quiet. We get Ruthie out alive. Then we kill everyone inside. No mercy. No prisoners. No witnesses. What if it's a trap? Then we spring it. 11:31 a.m., Red Hook, Brooklyn. The warehouse district was abandoned this time of morning. Pier Street was deserted, except for seagulls and the smell of rotting fish from the docks. Warehouse 43 was a 3-story brick building with barred windows and one entrance. Bumpy's men surrounded it. Willie climbed to the roof. Junie covered the back exit.
Bumpy and 5 others went through the front door.
Inside was dark, crates stacked to the ceiling, dust in the air, the sound of water dripping somewhere, and voices, male voices coming from upstairs. Bumpy moved silently up the stairs, his men behind him. The voices got louder. Come on, Tommy, just kill her already. We got what we need. Genevieve said to wait for the money. Screw the money. This girl's trouble. Her old man's probably tearing the city apart looking for her. That's the point, you idiot. When he pays, we kill her anyway. Sends a message. Bumpy reached the 2nd floor, saw a door, light coming from underneath. He pressed his ear against it, heard his daughter's voice. Please, just let me go. I won't tell anyone, I promise.
Shut up. One more word, and I'll cut out your tongue. Bumpy's hand gripped the doorknob. He looked at his men. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Bumpy kicked the door open. The room exploded into chaos. Tommy the Hawk was standing over Ruthie, knife in hand. She was tied to a chair, mouth gagged, terrified. 2 other men were at a table counting money. They all reached for guns. Bumpy's men fired first. The 2 men at the table went down immediately. Tommy grabbed Ruthie, held the knife to her throat. One more step and she dies. Bumpy froze. Everyone froze. Tommy, Bumpy said, his voice eerily calm. You let her go right now, I'll make it quick. You struggle, I'll make it last days. Tommy laughed. You think I'm scared of you? You're outnumbered.
This whole place is surrounded.
Your guys outside are probably already dead.
No, they're not, Junie's voice came from behind Tommy. He'd come up the back stairs, gun pointed at Tommy's head. You're the one who's outnumbered. Tommy's eyes darted between Bumpy and Junie. He was trapped, knew it, but he was also desperate. I'll kill her. I swear I'll kill her. Then you'll die 1 second later, Bumpy said, and it won't be a bullet. It'll be my hands. I'll strangle you so slowly you'll beg for death. Your choice, Tommy. Die quick or die slow. Tommy's hand shook. The knife pressed harder against Ruthie's throat. A thin line of blood appeared. Bumpy's eyes went dead. That was a mistake. In one fluid motion, Bumpy pulled a gun from his waistband and shot Tommy in the right shoulder, the same shoulder holding the knife. Tommy screamed, dropped the knife. Junie grabbed Ruthie, pulled her away. Bumpy walked forward, picked up the knife Tommy had dropped, stood over him. You cut my daughter. Tommy was crying now, clutching his bleeding shoulder. I'm sorry. Genevieve made me. I didn't want to. Bumpy knelt down, looked Tommy in the eyes. I know, but you did it anyway, and now you pay. What happened next, Bumpy's men never spoke about. But when they walked out of that warehouse 15 minutes later, Tommy the Hawk was dead. The other 2 kidnappers were dead, and Bumpy Johnson was carrying his daughter in his arms. 11:52 a.m. Ruthie was traumatized but alive. Bumpy held her in the back of the car as Junie drove them home. She cried into his chest.
I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, baby. Nothing. This wasn't your fault. I was so scared. I know. But you're safe now. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again. I promise. When they pulled up to the house on 122nd Street, Mamie ran out. She saw Ruthie alive, broke down sobbing, grabbed her daughter, held her like she'd never let go. Bumpy watched them, his wife and daughter, the 2 people he loved more than anything. He'd gotten Ruthie back, kept his promise, but he wasn't done. 12:14 p.m. Bumpy called Frank Costello. Frank, I need to talk to Genevieve. That's not a good idea right now, Bumpy. I just pulled my daughter out of a warehouse where Genevieve's men were holding her hostage. One of them cut her throat. So I'm going to talk to Genevieve. The only question is whether it's a conversation or an execution.
Frank Costello sighed on the other end of the line. Where do you want to meet? Neutral ground? Your place. 1 hour. Bumpy hung up. He kissed Ruthie's forehead, told Mamie he'd be back soon, and left. He had one more promise to keep. The promise he'd made to himself in that warehouse. Someone was going to pay for what happened to his daughter. 1:15 p.m., Frank Costello's restaurant in Manhattan. The place was empty, except for Frank sitting at a corner table. 2 bodyguards stood by the door. Bumpy walked in alone. The bodyguards moved to frisk him. Frank waved them off, let him through.
Bumpy sat down across from Frank. Frank poured 2 glasses of whiskey, slid one to Bumpy. I heard you got your daughter back. I'm glad. Thank you for setting up this meeting. I didn't have a choice. If I hadn't, you would have started a war. Still might. Bumpy took a sip of whiskey. Genevieve tried to use my daughter to take my territory. Frank nodded slowly. I know. And that can never happen again. If it does, I'll kill him. I'll kill everyone in his organization. I'll burn his empire to the ground. Frank studied Bumpy's face. You mean that? Every word. Frank leaned back. Vito made a mistake. A big one. But he's still a boss of one of the 5 families. You can't just kill him without consequences.
Then what do you suggest? Frank was quiet for a moment, thinking. You want justice for what happened to your daughter. I understand that. But if you kill Genevieve, you start a war with the Italians. Everybody loses. So here's what I propose. A sit-down. You, me, Genevieve, and the other bosses. We make it official. What Genevieve did violated the rules.
Families are off limits. Everyone agrees on that. We make him apologize, publicly, in front of the commission, and we make him pay restitution. How much? $500,000, the exact amount he demanded as ransom. Bumpy thought about it. That's the money. What about the blood? 3 men are already dead. Tommy the Hawk and his crew. That should be enough. Bumpy shook his head. It's not.
What else do you want? I want Geneviese's word, in front of everyone, that he'll never touch my family again, that Harlem stays independent, that this ends here, and I want him to look me in the eye when he says it. Frank nodded. I can arrange that. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the Ravenite Social Club. All 5 families will be there. If Geneviese refuses, then you'll have my blessing to do what you need to do. Bumpy stood up, extended his hand. Thank you, Frank. Frank shook it. Your daughter's lucky to have you as a father. I'm lucky to have her as a daughter. That's why I'll kill anyone who threatens her. Remember that.
June 16, 1961, 2 p.m. The Ravenite Social Club, Little Italy. This was where the commission met. The 5 families of New York, the most powerful organized crime organization in America. Bumpy Johnson walked into the room alone. Every eye turned to him. At the table sat 5 men. Frank Costello, representing the Luciano family, Carlo Gambino of the Gambino family, Tommy Lucchese of the Lucchese family, Joe Bonanno of the Bonanno family, and Vito Genovese of the Genovese family. Genovese looked at Bumpy with cold hatred. Bumpy stared back, his face carved from stone. "Sit down, Mr. Johnson," Frank said. Bumpy sat at the opposite end of the table from Genovese. Frank cleared his throat.
We're here to discuss the incident involving Mr. Johnson's daughter. Vito, you want to explain yourself? Genovese leaned forward. It was business, nothing personal. My daughter is 16 years old. She has nothing to do with business. Genovese shrugged. In our world, everything's business. Leverage is leverage. Bumpy's hands clenched into fists under the table. Carlo Gambino spoke up. Vito, that's not how we operate. Families are off limits. We agreed on that years ago. Children, wives, they're not part of this life. Times change, Genovese said. No, Frank interrupted. Rules don't change. You violated the code. Now you pay. How much? Genovese asked. $500,000, Bumpy said. The exact amount you demanded. Genovese laughed.
You want me to pay you?
You kidnapped my daughter, tried to extort me, got 3 of your men killed. Yeah, I want you to pay. And I want your word that my family is untouchable, that you'll never try this again. Genovese's smile disappeared. I don't take orders from you. You're not giving me an order, Bumpy said quietly. You're giving me your word. Or I'm walking out of here and we settle this another way. The room went silent. Everyone knew what another way meant. War. Blood. Bodies. Tommy Lucchese spoke. Vito, pay the man. This is your mess. Clean it up. Joe Bonanno nodded. You made a mistake. Own it. Genovese looked around the table, realized he had no support. The other families weren't going to back him on this. What Genovese had done was wrong.
Everyone knew it.
Fine, Genovese said through gritted teeth. I'll pay $500,000. And your word, Bumpy pressed, that my family is untouchable. Genovese stared at Bumpy with pure hatred. You have my word. Say it properly, in front of everyone, so there's no confusion. Genovese's jaw clenched. I, Vito Genovese, give my word that Bumpy Johnson's family is untouchable. I will never harm them or use them as leverage again. Harlem remains independent. This ends here. Good, Bumpy said. Now apologize. Excuse me? You kidnapped my daughter, terrified my wife, violated every rule we have. Apologize. Genovese's face turned red. I'm not apologizing to you. Then we're done talking. Bumpy stood up. Frank, thank you for trying, but some people don't understand respect.
They only understand consequences.
Wait,
Frank said. "Vito, just apologize. We can end this right now." Genovese looked around the table again. Every boss was staring at him, waiting. He was cornered. He'd violated the rules. Everybody knew it. And if he didn't apologize, Bumpy Johnson was going to start a war that would cost everyone money. "I apologize," Genovese finally said, the words like poison in his mouth. "For taking your daughter, for threatening your family. It won't happen again." Bumpy stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted. The money will be delivered tomorrow." "Now get out," Genovese said. "You got what you came for." "Not quite. What else do you want?" "I want everyone in this room to understand something." Bumpy looked at each boss in turn.
I didn't come to New York looking for power. I didn't ask to run Harlem. But it's mine now, and I protect what's mine. My neighborhood, my people, my family. Today was about my daughter, but tomorrow, if anyone tries what Genovese tried, if anyone thinks they can use fear to control me, I won't sit at a table and negotiate. I'll burn their world down. Is that understood? The room was silent. Then Frank Costello spoke. "It's understood, Mr. Johnson. You've made your point." "Good." Bumpy walked toward the door, then paused. "One more thing, Genovese." "What?" "Your men, Tommy the Hawk and the others. I know they were following your orders, but they still hurt my daughter, so they're dead."
"And if you send anyone else to Harlem looking for revenge, they'll end up the same way."
"You can't keep killing my men. Watch me." Bumpy Johnson walked out of the Ravenite Social Club. Behind him, 5 mob bosses sat in silence. Finally, Carlo Gambino spoke. "Vito, you're an idiot. That man would have killed all of us to save his daughter. You're lucky you're still breathing." Genovese said nothing, just stared at the door Bumpy had walked through. June 17, 1961, 10 a.m. A courier arrived at Bumpy's house with a briefcase. Inside was $500,000 in cash, the exact amount Genovese had demanded as ransom. Bumpy counted it, then called Frank Costello. "I got the money." "Good. What are you going to do with it?"
Bumpy looked at Ruthie sitting in the living room with Mamie. His daughter was still shaken, still recovering, but alive.
"I'm starting a scholarship fund for kids in Harlem who want to go to college, in Ruthie's name. So something good comes from something terrible." Frank smiled on the other end of the line. "You're a better man than most people think, Bumpy." "I'm not a good man, Frank. I'm just a father." Same thing. Within a month, the Ruthie Johnson Scholarship Fund was established. It sent 23 kids to college that first year. Over the next decade, it would send hundreds more. Every scholarship recipient received a letter with their acceptance. It said, "This scholarship is funded by people who believe every child deserves a chance. Work hard. Make your family proud. And remember, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world." The letter was unsigned, but everyone in Harlem knew who wrote it.
Years later, in 1975, a young woman named Grace Washington stood at a podium accepting her doctorate in medicine from Columbia University. She was the first person in her family to go to college, the first to become a doctor. During her speech, she said something that made the audience stand and applaud. "I wouldn't be here today without the Ruthie Johnson Scholarship. I was a poor kid from Harlem with no hope, but someone believed in me. Someone I never met gave me a chance. And I want every young person here to know, sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expect. Sometimes they're people the world calls criminals, but I call them heroes."
In the audience, Ruthie Johnson, now 30 years old with children of her own, wiped away tears. After the ceremony, Grace found her. "You're Ruthie Johnson," Grace said. "The scholarship is named after you." Ruthie nodded. "My father started it. After something bad happened to me, he wanted good to come from it. Your father saved my life. He saved hundreds of lives. Thank you." Ruthie smiled. "He would have been proud to hear you say that. He passed away 7 years ago, but he always said the same thing. Protect people. Give them a chance.
That's real power. Grace hugged her. He was right. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. At his funeral, over 5,000 people attended. Politicians, musicians, community leaders, criminals, and hundreds of kids who'd received scholarships from the fund he'd started. None of them knew the full story.
None of them knew about June 15, 1961. About 4 hours when Bumpy tore through New York like a hurricane to save his daughter.
But Ruthie knew, and she told her children, and they told their children. The story became legend. Not because Bumpy killed 3 kidnappers, though he did. Not because he faced down the Italian mob, though he did that too. But because of what he did afterward. He could have kept the money, could have used it for himself. Instead, he turned his daughter's trauma into opportunity for hundreds of kids who'd never met her. That's power. Real power. June 15, 1961. 4 hours. From 8 a.m. when Mamie found the note to 12 p.m. when Ruthie was safe at home. 4 hours when Bumpy Johnson proved that nothing, not the mob, not $500,000, not the threat of war, nothing was more important than family.
If this story of a father's love, 4 hours of hell, and the legend that followed moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you understand that real men protect their families at any cost. Share this with someone who needs to hear about the day Bumpy Johnson became more than a gangster. He became a father who turned tragedy into legacy. What would you have done in those 4 hours? Let me know in the comments. And remember, the strongest man in the room isn't the one with the most guns. It's the one who'd burn the world down to save the people he loves. Bumpy Johnson proved that on June 15, 1961, and Harlem never forgot.